Recording in progress.
All right. This is Minute Message Micah, Philosophy 101, Class 2. I hope y'all got something out of that first one. Whoever's watching, God's audience. Y'all are God's audience right here. Basic logic reasoning. We'll go over that a little bit. Very, very simply. Absolutes and morality. Right, very, very basic stuff right here. Nothing incomprehensible. Okay, so logic reasoning. What is logic? Here's a joke I heard back when I was 19 years old. Yeah. All right. A man decides to return to college in his 30s. Logic is now a required class. He asks the professor, "What is logic?" The professor replies with the question, "Do you own a lawnmower?" "Yes," is his reply. The instructor says, "From this, I logically conclude that you have a fairly good sized yard. And from this, I logically conclude that you don't live in an apartment, but live in a house." And the guy's like, yes, I do," is his reply. "Given that you live in a house, you are most likely married and have children and are therefore heterosexual, a happily married man." And the guy says, "This is amazing. All this from knowing that I own a lawnmower?" And so the next day he explains to his workers about his logic class. His coworker asked about it, and so he asked him if he owns a lawnmower. "No," is his coworker replied. His coworker says, "No, you're queer, ain't you?" It's the logic right there, right? It's the process of thinking. It's a thought process, right? That's logic, right? All right, so logic reasoning. So there's inductive logic reasoning and deductive. Real quick, we'll talk about inductive. All right, so inductive logic is a kind of reasoning that involves drawing general conclusions from a specific set of observations and patterns. It involves widens a specific premise into a broader generalization. All right, so it's like specific. With those specifics, you can conclude something general. All right. A pattern of observations that are true, concluding that it's always true, right? And this logic leads to stereotypes. And stereotypes are rooted in logic reasoning. That's what makes them funny, right? Stereotypes, they can be funny. Yes, they can be. And they're rooted in logic. There's some logic behind that. So here's some examples, and these are, for me, real life examples, and I hope they translate well. All right, so when I was 16, I worked at the movie theater. There's this Asian guy. His name was Cam. And when I say Asian, he was more like Cambodian or something. Just a real, like, he was so lazy, he couldn't even talk, right? He was too lazy to talk. It was hard to understand him sometimes. Good guy, nice guy, just lazy in that respect. All right, so Cam was late to work last week. Cam was late to work yesterday. Cam was late to work today. We can conclude with them specifics that those true observations, we can conclude Cam will be late tomorrow. That's not out of the realm of possibility, right? It's not always true, but it's logical to conclude that, right? There's a reason to conclude that. All right. Cam works part-time at the movie theater. Cam also works part-time at the stadium, selling, the old baseball stadium. One of the guys that puts on the, ice cream, it's got the little cooler strapped to your shoulder, and you got to sell so many units of ice cream, right? Cam has a girlfriend. Her name is Angel. Okay. Cam pays a lot for living expenses. So based on these right here, Cam works part-time in the movie theater. He also works a second part-time job. He's got a girlfriend. He pays a lot for living expenses. We can conclude, amongst other observations, Cam doesn't have much time for himself or extra money. That's a fair logical conclusion. Yes, it is, right? And you can replace Cam, this guy I used to work with when I was 16, with, you know, Tom's dad, right? You can put yourself in there, right? If put anybody in there, that conclusion will ring true, right? Yes, that's reasoning. All right, Ken lives with Angel, Cam's girlfriend, and Alex. They all worked at the movie theater together. So Ken, Angel, Cam's girlfriend, and Alex had an apartment that they shared the rent on, right? Ken was a big dude. Big Ken is what we called him. Big Ken is a heavy man, to put it nicely, and comes home from work late at night. Ken has been known to eat snacks from his coworker's lunch, right? So if you got like a bag of chips or something, like those little individual bag of chips, he's been known to eat that. You know, it's a fact. Angel's gourmet cookie from the bakery was eaten last night. So I guess Angel went out, you know, presumably with Cam, and they went to a gourmet bakery. She got a big old cookie and it was eaten, right? So Angel asked Ken if he ate the cookie, and he said he didn't. And she, really like, Ken, I'm not going to get mad. Just tell me, did you eat the cookie? Ken, no, I did not. Ken told Angel I did not eat the cookie, right? So Angel, she didn't believe him and tore up a bunch of his stuff, right? So who ate the cookie? We can logically conclude Cam ate the cookie. It's a funny story. I hope my brothers are watching this. Oh my goodness, they'd get a kick out of this. Cam ate the cookie. So yeah, no, Ken did not eat Angel's cookie that she brought home from the bakery. Cam ate it. Her boyfriend ate it, right? And so she finds out after the fact. So after she tore down his posters and everything, right there. So that that was that's that was the logical reasoning to conclude that this was it. But it's not always true, right? It's logic, it's reasoning, right? It leads you on a path to a conclusion. Are those conclusions always correct? No, they don't always have to be true, right? So that's in, specific, wide conclusion, right? So quick and easy. If you have you know, a bag of candy, Halloween's coming up, you stick your hand in a bag of candy, you pull out a Snickers. You grab another piece, it's a Snickers. You grab another piece, it's a Snickers. What's the likelihood that you're going to pull out another Snickers on the fourth piece? It's likely, right? You're seeing that. You probably got a bag full of all Snickers, right? That's inductive reasoning. All right. And so we got deductive reasoning. This is all logic right here. I think I'm just stuck here. We use deductive logic to formulate correct logical arguments along with their corresponding conclusions. All right. And I color coded these for the formula, right? To, the word formulate. So formula, it's very simple, very simple. People who like to go fishing have a boat, right? If you really like to go fishing, you're probably going to have a boat, right? You get out on the water a little better, get some better fish, right? So we'll use the turquoise or cyan color. That's A. And then have a boat, B. So people who go fishing is A. And then having a boat is B in the formula. A equals B. People who go fishing have a boat. Simple, simple. Tommy likes to go fishing all the time. Tommy likes to go fishing. Any chance he gets, he'll go fishing. Well, we know fishing is A. Tommy is a new one. So Tommy would be C, but fishing is still A, right? Tommy likes to go fishing. That's a fact, right? So C equals A. Now to fully wrap this up, people who like to go fishing have a boat. Tommy likes to go fishing. It would be logical to conclude Tommy has a boat. I hope y'all can see that, right? So C equals B. It may not be true, but it's logical. It's not always true, but it is logical, right? So when you're trying to solve something, especially like investigations, that's logical, right? You know, police often ask, you know, if there's a suspect out there and there was a crime at this location, it's like, well, what's the kind of guy who would visit this location, right? It's logical. We're just following logic here. All right. Another example, doctors and lawyers get paid a lot of money. Again, A equals B. Doctors and lawyers is A, getting paid money is B. Ryan's mom and dad have a metric ton of money. Ryan's mom and dad are rich. C equals B. So what can we say? It's pretty simple, right? It is possible that Ryan's mom and dad are probably lawyers or doctors, right? That's basic logic reasoning right there. You're just gathering the facts and forming a conclusion. That's what it is. And if you all watched my first video of the class, the Christian and the atheist at the church debating, you know, he gathered the facts and he put the argument together and ended up turning it on its head. He turned the other guy's argument against him on its head. And that's why it's important to know this type of reasoning. C equals A, right? All right, so let you all see this one. To get into law school, you have to pass the LSAT, the law school admissions test. Melanie plays softball on the varsity school team. She's active at church and is considering becoming a lawyer who grows up, right? So if Melanie, who's considered becoming a lawyer, wants to grow up, you know, to get to being a lawyer, you have to take this test. But she's got a lot. It sounds like she's got a lot of things going on. We could say, factually, Melanie will have to prioritize her time to study for the LSAT and take the test, right? Because if you want to get into law school, you want to definitely study for that test, right? So you're gathering information and you're drawing a conclusion, right? You're deducing, deductive, detecting. Yes. Okay. We've all heard if it looks like a duck and waddles like a duck, it's a duck, right? That's the inductive type logic. Snakes are venomous. We know venom kills people. Therefore, snakes kill people. That's totally a fair statement, right? Or they can. Now, is every snake venomous? No, right? But logically, it's safe to conclude that you should treat all snakes as venomous, right? That's deductive logic. This basic type of logic reasoning, when applied to debate, forms strong arguments when grounded with facts and fundamental truths, right? And I showed that video, I'll spare you all, I could play it again, but I'll spare you, of how, you know, when you gather arguments and facts and you can just drop the mic on someone you're debating with logic, right? All right. Now we're talking about absolutes. So this is a good one. Only a religious nut deals in absolutes. But isn't that an absolute statement? me questioning my statement of being a religious nut. Am I a religious nut? Right? Because that is an absolute statement. If you say only religious nuts deals in absolutes, that's an absolute statement. And so it's like you just turn the argument on its head. Isn't that an absolute statement? It's like, wait a minute. Because in a sense, you're calling yourself out, right? You're calling yourself a religious nut, not the guy that you're talking to or making that claim about. And I hope, I don't know, I hope. Usually on my videos, I've noticed with the program I use, it keeps me right there. But it says, "Are there absolutes?" And then the other guy says, "There are no absolutes." And so if you ask, "Are you absolutely sure?" It's like, huh. So when you take that claim and you turn it on its head, it just destroys the claim, right? So clearly, just logically speaking, there are absolutes. Because if you say there are no absolutes, but you're not absolutely sure, well, then how do you know that there's not absolutes, right? You just turn the claim on its head. So the statement there, it falls apart logically. Thus, we can conclude or draw a conclusion that there are absolutes. And this is like factual. There are absolutes in real life. Yes, there are. Yes, there are. All right. So, because in philosophy, we define terms before we define it. So absolute, and these I got from my dictionary. Free from imperfection. So when you look at the word absolute in the dictionary, free from imperfection, complete, perfect, absolute liberty, not mixed or adulterated, pure, as in an absolute alcohol. That's in the dictionary. Look it up, right? And it's like, huh, absolute alcohol. So like 100% pure alcohol, nothing else. And I remember it's like, and I don't drink. I've never been a drinker, but like absolute, it's vodka. Apparently that's like, obviously that's just a brand name, right? But I just find it interesting that the dictionary from the 1950s that I have uses, the example of absolute alcohol, and there's an alcohol company called Absolute. I guess they're branding themselves with being pure, right? They're associating themselves with being pure. Absolute, very clever. An absolute, especially in philosophy, is definitive. It's definite. Usually in a statement that says what it means and means what it says. It's unchanging. It does not change. It's set in stone. If you all get that reference right there. Should and shall is a great example of being absolute, not absolute, right? So if you're reading something like a rule, like if you're an over the road driver and you got to secure, cargo down in the back, and you're reading like the DOT rules from the Department of Transportation or something official, and it gives you a statement like when securing a heavy cargo on a trailer, you should use chains, right? Well, I guess if you use bungee cord and shoelaces, based on the way, that regulation or law or whatever is written, if you get pulled over, you can't be cited for not using chains because it says you should, but it doesn't say you have to. There's nothing definitive saying you have to, right? But if it's written in such a manner, it says when securing heavy cargo on a trailer, you shall use chains. Oh, well, I guess chains is what you're going to use and you're not using anything else, right? Like you shall use, that's an absolute. It's not, you should, you could. possibly, maybe, it's recommended. No, it's absolute, you shall, right? And so in dealing with philosophy, absolutes are very important. All right. And morality. What is morality? It's a universal concept of right and wrong conduct and behaviors. So how you behave, how you conduct yourself, the things you do, it's a universal concept of what's right and wrong, right? Like theft. Is theft right? Is it wrong? Is, the way you treat a specific group of people right or wrong, right? There needs to be a standard of morality, and it's pertaining to the quality of character of an individual or society. Morality encompasses such concepts as justice, freedom and liberty, murder, fornication, theft, corruption or accepting bribes, bearing false witness or lying, modesty in apparel, modesty in speech. Do you have a short vocabulary and use a bunch of 4-letter words? The less you know, the more you yell and scream and blame others, right? Capital punishment regarding the aged and the elderly. How do we treat, our seniors? And treatment towards others different from you in appearance, social status, and belief system. All that encompasses morality and more. This is not an absolute list, but this covers quite a bit right here. So when dealing with these subjects, we're dealing with issues of morality. It's your moral compass, right? And go back a slide. Universal concept of right and wrong, quality of character of an individual. So everyone has a moral compass. Everyone has, there's right and there's wrong. Everyone has a different moral compass. Some things are right for some people, some things are wrong for others. But and I just kind of put this together here. This is not absolute, this is not all encompassing, but I think it gets the point across, right? So if we'll call this north, right? If north is right and south is wrong, east would be, it depends on the situation, and then left would be like, or west. If it's not hurting anyone, who cares, right? And then like your quadrants, not 100% sure, I don't know. It's okay only when XYZ conditions are met, as long as I don't get caught, or I don't care, right? It's like, it's right, but I don't care, right? If I don't think it's wrong, I don't care. You have your indifference, apathy. All right, so moral absolutes, theft, right? You can put that right on the compass, and it's like, is theft right? Is it wrong? Or, oh, maybe, it depends on the situation, right? And we've had politicians in America in within I believe in 2022. Yes, in 2022, it's like, well, theft isn't wrong because they're just trying to feed their family. Like, is it wrong to steal to feed your family? It's a moral dilemma right there, right? But when you're smashing diamond stores and shoe stores, I don't think you're trying to feed your family with shoes and diamonds. Fornication. Is fornication right or wrong? Right? Bearing false witness. Well, as long as I don't get caught, right? Or it depends on the situation. Tattoos. That's another one. Tattoos. Ink. I like to call it ink. I don't have any tattoos, by the way. No tattoos. Is it right? Is it wrong? It's like most people be like, I don't care. Who cares, right? It's not like you need to hide anything if you get a tattoo. Of course, your employer may not care for you to have a tattoo. Some industries, they might want you to have a tattoo, right? Yes. But those all fall on a moral compass, right? How you view each moral absolute. And then there's philosophical ideas based on morality, like love and marriage. What is love? That's a good question. What is love? And I have a presentation for that. Marriage. What is marriage? Capital punishment, injustice, right? And war. Is war right? Is war wrong? Depends on the situation. War is only okay when, right? Or do you just not care, right? You don't care. People die. All this falls on a moral compass. And every individual has to deal with this in their life. They have to. They have to deal with it. They cannot avoid this. All right. So on child sacrifice in all of its various forms, I will leave it at that. All of its various forms, right? So a Christian, I would think, thus thinketh Micah, would say that child sacrifice in all of its various forms is definitely wrong. An atheist may not care. In fact, I know an atheist doesn't care. And quote me on that. Because they don't have a regard for human life as would a Christian, right? They're not going to say it's right, but they're indifferent towards it. Especially Mr. Richard Dawkins right here. And I will present that in a minute here. A Muslim, I'm going to assume, that a Muslim would think that child sacrifice would be wrong. I could be wrong, but I'm going to conclude that, Islam being the religion of peace would conclude that child sacrifice in all of its various forms is wrong. The rainbow people, they might conclude that it's right? Because it's not a child. They might come up with a different conclusion. It's possible. A Satanist, Mr. Brian Hugh Warner, stage name Marilyn Manson. Just a fun fact about Mr. Warner here. So the name, the stage name, the alias Marilyn Manson comes from two aspects. Marilyn, like Marilyn Monroe, a sex icon, and then Manson, as in Charles Manson, a very violent man. Well, and fun fact about Charles Manson, how many people did Charles Manson kill? Charles Manson never killed anybody, but he's got blood on his hands. So that's just a stage name. But Brian Hugh Warner is his name. Satan, he's very antichrist. And on child sacrifice in all its various forms, I would figure he would be of the opinion that if it's not hurting anyone, who cares, right? I don't think he would really care either which way. Me just drawing conclusions based on what I know about him. Or another atheist, right? It's okay only when XYZ conditions are met. It's very possible. Or another atheist that doesn't know, not 100% sure, because like I said earlier, a lot of people, they're not actively seeking truth and information and knowledge and wisdom. They're just not. But in this example, and I don't think it's too far from reality or the truth or what you could, get out in the real world, you can see that there's, that compass is going practically every direction, right? How do we justify all this? Or use the word adjudicate. I like the word justify. How do we reconcile why on one issue we got all these different, you know, reason beliefs? Oh, and the witch. As long as I don't get caught. Yes. No, can't forget the witch. There are witches out there. When I was in high school, there was a blind girl. Her name was Tiffany, and she was a Wiccan witch. Yes. Nice girl. And so I'm sure you've seen on the back of people bumper stickers, coexist, right? And it's like, oh, very, very clever, very witty how they took the Islam star and the peace sign and the gender equality or the science equals MC's, the Star of David, paganism, Satanism, Taoism, the yin yang, the duality. I cover that in another subject. And the cross, right? How witty. How can't we all just coexist peacefully? All these different belief systems, can't we all just get along, right? As famously quoted from the 90s by Mr. Rodney King. Can't we? Well, the answer is no. We cannot coexist simply because we don't agree on the moral standard, right? There has to be, we don't agree on morality. So no, we cannot peacefully coexist. Yes, we can tolerate each other, right? But no, there is no unity between us, right? The Christian, we'll go with this Christian right here. This Christian here and this rainbow Christian, there's no unity right there. No unity, right? The the Islam, the moon and star of Islam, has no unity, and they have displayed it historically with anyone else quite um, forcefully, aggressively. They have adamantly, that's the word, they have adamantly made it known that they are not going to coexist with others. You got all these different, the anarchists, right? No rules, everyone, just anarchy. These young kids with that anarchy. When I was in high school, anarchy, all the kids would have a patch and they'd sew it on their backpack with the little anarchy A. So silly. And then all these different, and these are philosophies. They're not so much religions as they are philosophies, right? You got all these different philosophies, they cannot coexist. And this is why at extended family gatherings and professional places of work, what's religion and politics are taboo subjects. We don't talk about them. Why? Because you're going to offend someone, you're going to piss someone off. You can say that on YouTube, right? You're going to piss them off, and it's going to create a hostile environment, right? Because when you get to know someone for who they are and what they believe, it's hard to have unity with them because it's like, this person thinks it's okay to sacrifice children. It's like, I can't get down with that, right? You cannot get down with that. But when you're at a place of work, it's like you got to put all that aside. And it's just best not to talk about it in professional places of work. Now, in the oil field, let me tell you, it's not that professional. So we talked about it a lot. Yes, this is true. And fortunately, in the oil field, you had like-minded people, slightly varying degrees, off the heading, but for the most part, generally the same direction of thought. So no, we cannot coexist. And that's part two. That is part two. We talked about reasoning, absolutes. I think there's just one slide in absolute, maybe two, and morality. Very simple. All right, so this is class 2. Hope you all got something out of this. I'm gonna upload this and put on part 3. Yes. If I can get out of here. Yes.